I didn't see you there. Hello there. Welcome back to Max's Writing Advice Q&A. In tonight's episode, we're going to be talking about style, the concept of style, the muse, as well as maintaining tone and characterization throughout your writing and revision drafts. But before I go anywhere, allow me to remind you, as always, that if you have a writing question, please feel free to leave it down in the comments below. Every week, questions are picked randomly, so your question is as likely to be picked as anyone else's. And one more thing. Before I go anywhere, allow me to remind you and give you the formal disclaimer that the following is merely just my advice, my opinion, and what works for me. Don't take it as gospel, instead take it as the ramblings of a silly person who looks a little bit, or rather precisely like this. Oh man, my hair is extra puffy today. Anyhow, you know the drill, you know how this goes. 3 questions, 3 minutes a pop. Let's dive right in. The first question goes a little bit like this. Advice for when you've got a deadline but your muse just won't seem to let you write anything? Let's go! 3 minutes! The muse. For those of you who don't know, the muse is this concept that some writers believe that their inspiration is drawn from this muse, a character who gives them inspiration. Now, I wasn't familiar with that concept until recently, mostly because I just didn't grow up in that. It's almost like a cultural thing, I think. I didn't grow up with that, so I didn't particularly believe in it, but there's a nice passage from my favorite book on writing advice, On Writing by Stephen King, link in the description down below. I recommend you go check out that book. It's basically the best book on writing. I listen to it once a year. Anyhow, he has a nice passage on the way that he pictures the muse as opposed to the way that people talked about him or told him about it in college. Because in college, people describe the muse as this kind of like almost like a magic fairy that just came by and just sprinkled you with, excellence dust. And, that's where the good words came from. And Stephen King pictured the muse differently. He pictured his muse as a sort of like really old, grimy, overweight man who's really lazy. Oh, and he doesn't like to get out of he doesn't like to get off his sofa to come help you. But to Stephen King, the way that it worked for the muse is that, like, the muse doesn't work for you. Listen, buddy, you work for the muse. You show up at your desk at the same time every goddamn day. And if inspiration comes, it comes. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But what matters is that you show up, you do your time, so that when the muse, that old, overweight, greasy guy, feels like getting off his butt and actually sprinkling that excellence dust, you'll be there to catch it. And I actually really like that quote. I actually really like it because it's the idea of writing with discipline as opposed to with inspiration, because inspiration is a little bit fleeting. It comes and it goes, but discipline can get you anywhere. And I do actually agree with Mr. King here that you gotta sit down, put in the time, and just get to writing. There's another quote that I really like, and it's the idea that the water only flows once you turn the faucet on. So you gotta be there and crank that faucet and get the water flowing. The timer went off screen, but there's one quote from Stephen King that I just adore, and it's also from that book, On Writing by Stephen King. He says that the scariest moment is always just right before you start. So just jump in. I would recommend that. And I know that it sucks, and I know that you're probably like rolling your eyes and you're like, that's not what I was looking for. But I gotta tell you what works for me. And for me, those nudging little feelings, that little fear, that little doubt that are telling you, oh man, I'm under pressure, or oh man, I'm not gonna complete this in time, all of those go away. Once you sit down, start pushing through the process. Again, the muse doesn't work for you. You work for the muse. Show up on time, clock in, start doing the work, okay? I hope that helps. If anything, I hope that helps. The second question of the day deals with a subject that we are all very familiar with, so let's take it from the top. It goes a little bit like this. How important is it to keep characterization, plot, and tone consistent, considering everything is reviewed during the editing process? A story can change a lot during writing, even with a plan. 3 minutes on the clock. Get set. Go. You make a really good point. I actually completely agree with you that the story changes a lot. Even if you have a plan or an outline, sometimes that outline just goes out the window. So, how important is it to keep characters, plot, events, tone? How important is it to keep it consistent? It's not. It's actually not at all. Because you said it yourself. At the end, we're just gonna review things. Here's my piece of advice, like personal piece of advice. Write the damn thing first. Write the whole book first and worry about all this stuff later. And I know that you're like, but Max, I'm feeling stressed out about this. I can't just not worry about it. Once again, I'm just going to quote Stephen King because that's all I do on this show. He has a really nice segment in his memoir on writing. Oh my god. Just plugging that in all the outlets. He has a really nice quote where he talks about revision, and you know how sometimes your like creative writing professor or your English teacher was like, what do you think are the themes of this book? And you know, people give really pompous answers and stuff like that. Well, the reality is this. None of those themes and moods and all those fancy things that people like to analyze, they were not there in the first draft. Stephen King talked about it super plainly. This is how you write a book. You write the whole damn thing, you pick it up weeks later, you look at it, and you ask yourself, what is this story about? Look at it objectively. You wrote it, at least you're from the past wrote it. Look at it and ask yourself, what is this story about? And then bring that into the foreground. If you realize, you know what, this chapter here deals a lot with the main character and his father. I'm gonna bring them to the foreground. Can I bring that into the foreground somewhere else? Tone and theme are byproducts of revision. And I hope that this really helps, because like people like always reaching out to me. I'm like, Max, I want the story to be like this, but not too much like this. And I'm like, write the whole thing first. Write it, and then worry about it later. I know that it sounds like an excuse or people don't like that, but that's literally how the pros do it. Revision is your friend. I've been saying this for years. Don't worry about characterization. And the timer is about to go off, but I'm gonna sneak this in right here. I've said this in the past and I've said it a million times. I'm gonna say it one more time. When I revise my books, 90% of the work goes into revising the first third of the book. You know why? Because in that first third, I'm getting used to the characters. I'm getting into their heads. I'm getting used to wearing their shoes. So their characters are all over the place. From there on, I get better though. Once you write the thing and you are in there and you get used to those voices and those shoes, you can walk all the way to the end. Of course, it's not gonna look perfect once you actually read the whole thing in one go. But that's why revision is your friend. Once again, really quickly, in summary, write the whole thing. Write the whole thing without worrying about any of this. Keep your notes. Write notes of whatever you think it's important and keep them somewhere safe. When you start revising, ask yourself, what is this story actually about? What is the tone of this story? What is the tone of this chapter? And bring it into the foreground. It really is as simple as that, okay? Okay. And so, it's time for the very final question of the day, and it goes a little bit like this. What do you think when you're writing but you think your style is too bland and needs more detail? Except you've developed this style over 2 decades. Like, I am going to be 31 this week, and I know I need to grow my style, but I'm not certain as to how. Alright, I'm probably gonna go along on this one, but let's just take it from the top really quickly. First off, no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try, everyone you look up to, everyone who's been writing for like decades and stuff, people still tell them, hey, you should probably change this about the way that you tell stories. So if somebody out there was like, hey, you should add more detail, or hey, you should write more of this, or you should do more of that, take it with a grain of salt, because people are dumb. You should write however the hell you want to write, okay? Now, with that being said, let's push it to the side and actually have the real talk of this question. I've been writing stories for a while. I'm almost catching up with you. I'm not 31 yet. I'm 27 right now, but I've been writing for a while. And people tell me that I have a pretty cool style. I have no idea what they mean by this. I honestly have no clue. I mean, I guess sometimes I use short sentences really effectively, but like, people tell me I have a style. I have no idea what it is. You know why? Because I live up here 24/7. I am this close to the writing. I have no idea when people are saying, when they're like, yo, your style is really good. And it took me a long while to come to terms that style is kind of like fingerprints. Everyone's got them and you're leaving them on everything you touch. Like seriously, like everything you write, no matter what genre it is, no matter how strange you may be or how much you think it diverts from the way you generally write stories, it's still got your brand in it. You still wrote it, and it's gonna show, and it's gonna carry your particular style and way of doing things. You can't actually turn that off. You can't notice it either. And I hate to be a little bit like this, because this is gonna sound a little bit condescending, and please hear me out. If a younger person had asked me this question, I would have told them to go and read more, so they could see, you know, how everyone else does things differently, and maybe take things they like and toss away what they don't like and move on from there. But you've been writing for a while. You've been doing your thing. I am pretty certain that you have already got your style, and you've settled then into the way that you tell stories. If you want it to be more descriptive, if you really want it to be more descriptive, then I mean, I feel like that's almost more like a revision thing. Like, go back through the story and just add more descriptions. Because your style is already there. You've already developed it. I could tell you to go read more, but I don't know how effective that would be because you've been writing for so long. Like, I feel like that piece of advice would be kind of null right now because you got your style. maybe you can't see it because we're up here 24/7. I don't think anyone can see their style. But anyways, for your particular situation, honestly, look at this feedback that people are telling you. Question if you really believe it or if you're just doing it because people are telling you to do it. Otherwise, just keep writing, do your thing. Your style is there even when you don't intend it. When there are times when people can tell when I send a text because I structure my text messages in a very particular fashion. You leave your fingerprints everywhere you go, okay? You can't stop that, so just keep on writing, okay? Okay. And that's about it for today's episode. I hope that my answers were insightful, or if anything, I gave you another point of view. For the time being, remember as always that if you have questions you would like to send my way, leave them down in the comments below. Every week, questions are chosen randomly. And also, if you have your own thoughts on the questions that were answered today, please let me know. Leave them in the comments down below. I look forward to what you have to say. For the time being though, again, thank you for watching, thank you for spending a little bit of your day with me, and I'll see you on the next one.